The movie opens in the dead of night, with a team of mercenaries slipping out of Cuba after burning a drug facility to the ground. Their leader is Jonathan Shale, a former soldier who has spent his entire life following orders. The mission is a success, but 3 of his men never make it out alive, and when the survivors get home, they learn something that changes everything. The mission was never authorized. The government they bled for looks them straight in the eye and denies they even exist. Just like that, Shale and his team are cut loose, dismissed, and erased. He thinks his fighting days are over. He has no idea that the deadliest battlefield of his life is waiting for him inside a high school. 3 days later, in Miami, a violent brawl erupts between students in the middle of that school. 2 teachers, Jane Hetzko and Daryl Sherman, rush in to break it up, but the boy being beaten refuses their help. He's too afraid to talk. Jane knows exactly why. She confronts Juan Lacus, the leader of a street gang called the Kings of Destruction, and warns him that he's 1 step away from expulsion. Juan doesn't flinch. He threatens her right to her face, in front of everyone, like a man who knows nothing can touch him. Jane and Sherman take it to Principal Claude Roll, expecting backup. Instead, he brushes them off. No solid proof, he says. Too much risk of a lawsuit. Jane walks out of that office furious and makes a quiet decision. If no one else will gather evidence against this gang, she'll do it herself. She has no idea how dangerous that decision is about to become. After school, she finds her car surrounded by gang members. They've jammed her keyhole with gum, and they circle her, laughing, waiting for her to break. She doesn't. She throws a mocking hand sign right back at Juan and drives off. It feels like a small victory. It isn't. It's a declaration of war. That evening, something good finally happens. Jane comes home to find her fiancé waiting for her. It's Shale. He tells her he's done with the mercenary life, retired for good, and for one quiet night, the future actually looks peaceful. Then his phone buzzes. An old teammate has a job offer. Shale meets the crew at a club, where his trusted friend Joey Six pushes him to at least hear the pitch. The next morning, he's introduced to a client named Wolfson, alongside another mercenary called Janice. And once Janice leaves the room, the mask comes off. The job is guarding drug shipments, wiping out rival dealers, even killing federal agents if it comes to that. Shale shuts it down on the spot. A soldier, he says, is not a hired killer. He walks away thinking that's the end of it. Then the gang crosses a line that changes everything. While Jane is out jogging near the beach, a massive man ambushes her and smashes her knee with a stick. Shale happens to be walking nearby, charges in, and drives the attacker off before rushing her to the hospital. Lying in that bed, Jane tells him this was no random assault. Someone planned it, someone connected to her school. She'll be off her feet for days, so she asks Shale to find a substitute to cover her classes. And staring at the woman he loves, broken because she dared to stand up to a gang of teenagers, Shale makes a promise. Whoever did this is going to answer for it. And here's where the story flips into something brilliant. Shale doesn't hire a substitute. He becomes one. Quick pause. If stories about one man standing up for people everyone else abandoned do something to you, subscribe to FireFlix Recap, because this is exactly the kind of story we live for. Now, back to the school. With help from his old team, Shale forges a teaching certificate and a full paper trail, takes the name James Smith, and walks into that school as Jane's replacement. Principal Roll welcomes him with a warm smile, never suspecting that the calm man shaking his hand is a 20-year combat veteran hunting for the truth. His first class is chaos. Students shouting, mocking him, throwing things while he talks. Shale doesn't rise to any of it. He takes attendance, stays calm, and watches everything, reading the room like enemy territory. Later, in the staff lounge, he reconnects with Sherman and meets the school librarian, Hannah. Sherman warns him how deep the Kings of Destruction have their hooks in this place. Hannah goes further. She's convinced the gang was behind the attack on Jane, and she blames Roll for refusing to expel them. Sherman defends the principal. The man used to be a cop, he argues. He respects evidence. He wouldn't act without proof. But when Shale sits down with Roll privately, small details start screaming at him. Like the gold watch on the principal's wrist, worth far more than any educator's salary. Their friendly chat turns into a quiet duel, 2 men probing each other with careful words, each sensing the other is hiding something. Roll makes one thing very clear. This is his school, his staff, his students, his control. Shale walks out certain of one thing. Something about this man is rotten. Later that day, Shale gathers his old team and lays out a surveillance plan for the school. Holland, still bitter that Shale rejected Wolfson's money, refuses to lift a finger without pay and walks out. The rest stay. If there are drugs moving through that school, there's money buried somewhere and they intend to find it. The next day, during a lesson on the Vietnam War, a student named Tay hurls a soda can at Shale's head. Big mistake. Shale snatches it out of the air and fires it straight back, cracking Tay in the forehead. The room goes dead silent. Tay jumps up ready to swing, and Shale puts him down in seconds without even hurting him. Then he spots another student gripping an ice pick and disarms him with one precise move. The message lands on every kid in that room. This substitute is not like the others. Word reaches Roll fast, with Tay and another student threatening lawsuits. The principal storms toward the classroom expecting a disaster, but finds something he's never seen before. Silence. Focus. Students actually listening, so he waits. Inside, Shale is sharing real stories from the war, and something unexpected happens. The kids start opening up about their own lives, their own violence, their own scars. Juan tries to poison the moment, taunting Shale, demanding to know if he's ever been shot, bragging about his own bullet wounds. Shale doesn't take the bait. He just stays calm, and somehow that's more intimidating than any threat. Meanwhile, hidden cameras planted by Shale's team now cover the school, and on one of the feeds, he spots Roll heading his way. He restores order seconds before the door opens. Roll pressures him to apologize to the students or be fired. Shale refuses, and points out that union rules guarantee him 2 weeks' notice. Roll grants the 2 weeks through gritted teeth, then quietly orders a background check on this mysterious substitute. What comes back is flawless. Degrees, records, even a PhD from Princeton. All of it fake. All of it planted by Shale's team. Then comes a moment that shows what's really at stake. Shale drives Jane home, where she finds a heartfelt letter from her students, telling her how much they miss her. She breaks down in tears. These aren't monsters. They're kids drowning in a world the adults built around them. Back in class, Juan and his crew stroll in late, looking for a fight. Instead, Shale makes Juan write the word sorry on the board 100 times. Juan obeys, but slips a threat into it, a quiet promise that this isn't over. Shale ignores it and steers the class somewhere deeper, using a student named Jerome to open a real conversation about their futures, their choices, and where those choices lead. Walls start coming down. For the first time, these kids are imagining a life beyond the gang. Roll even congratulates Shale for handling Juan without violence, and invites him to a meeting later that day. It's a trap. Behind closed doors, the principal arranges with Juan to have Shale killed. What Roll doesn't know is that the cameras caught everything. So that evening, Shale sits alone in the school library, wearing a bulletproof vest, waiting. Juan arrives with armed thugs, and the library explodes into violence. Shale tears through them one by one, hurling bodies straight out of the windows. Outside, Roll sees figures hit the ground and confidently calls the police to report the dead substitute, then frantically cancels the call when he realizes those are his own men lying on the pavement. In the chaos, one attacker manages to shoot Shale, and Juan runs outside believing the job is done. The last gunman turns his weapon on Hannah, the only witness left. And that's when Shale rises, very much alive, and sends him out the window with the rest. That same night, Sherman visits Jane to check on her and compliments the incredible substitute she found. Then his eyes land on a photo of her fiancé. It's the substitute. When Shale gets home, Jane is waiting with the truth. He comes clean about all of it, the fake name, the surveillance, and his suspicion that Principal Roll himself is working with the gang. He promises her he won't stop until the whole operation is torn out of that school. Soon after, Joey brings word of a suspected drug deal down at the port. Shale watches the Kings of Destruction hand off product to buyers on a boat, and standing right there among them is the giant who shattered Jane's knee. The moment the deal is confirmed, they strike. Shale rips through the gang on the dock while Joey clears the boat. Then, out of nowhere, Holland appears, gun aimed at Shale, and orders the big man to finish him. The two collide in a brutal slugfest until Shale finally gets the upper hand. And just as the giant lunges one last time, Holland shoots him dead. He was never betraying Shale. He was testing him. Shale dumps the drugs into the ocean, and takes every dollar of the money. The next morning, Roll watches the news report of the ruined deal in a cold sweat. Then his phone rings. It's Johnny Glades, the drug lord behind everything, demanding his money back, and executing the deal's only survivor just to make the point. Roll races to the school, confronts Juan, and finally understands. The substitute did this. All of it. And then comes the twist that makes this movie unforgettable. Shale took that drug money and poured it back into the school. New facilities, upgrades everywhere, even free pizza for every student. The staff loves him. The kids love him. Roll fires him on the spot, and it changes nothing, because Jerome and the others now see exactly who's been fighting for them. Before leaving, Shale warns Sherman to watch his back, telling him straight that Roll is dirty. Sherman refuses to believe it. Roll is a good man, he insists. A pillar of the community. That refusal is about to cost him everything. That night, after a parent-teacher conference, gang shooters ambush Shale on the road, riddling his car with bullets until it crashes into a house. Word reaches Roll that the substitute is finally dead. Meanwhile, inside the school, Sherman and a student named Lisa find the doors locked. Searching for a way out, they wander down into the basement and stumble onto the truth. Roll and the Kings of Destruction, unloading drugs from buses and stacking them in the boiler room. They're spotted. They run. Sherman sends Lisa to warn Shale while he draws the gang away. He's caught, and Principal Roll, the former cop, the pillar of the community, executes him in cold blood. By morning, the school is drowning in grief. Roll stands before everyone and announces that Mr. Smith died in a drive-by shooting. Then the doors open, and Shale walks in, alive, and the color drains from every guilty face in the building. But his relief dies fast, because Jerome tells him the news. Sherman is gone, and the danger is spreading, because Roll has already sent Juan toward Jane's home. Shale tries to confront the principal, only to learn he's out, meeting a man named Wolfson. That name tells Shale everything. He hunts Wolfson down, beats the truth out of him, and learns how Glades and Roll run their empire, though even Wolfson doesn't know where the drugs are hidden. At the same time, Lisa, still carrying what she witnessed, ends up telling Jerome instead, and the two of them head to Jane's place. Then Jane calls Shale on the phone, and calmly calls him Mr. Smith. His blood runs cold. She would never call him that. It's a signal. The gang has taken Jane, Lisa, and Jerome hostage, and they're waiting for him. But Shale has already built his plan. He shows up disguised as a delivery man carrying a huge gift box, bursts through the door, and drops several attackers before sheer numbers bring him down. Juan digs into his identity and discovers the truth, that this substitute teacher is a professional mercenary, and his superiors give the order. Kill him. Then the doorbell rings. It's the landlady. Jane answers and talks her away, and that tiny distraction is all Shale needs. He snatches a blade, stabs one attacker through the leg, and turns the room into a war zone, until Juan presses a gun against Jane's head and forces him to surrender. Juan raises the weapon to finish it. A single gunshot rings out. Juan drops. Behind him stands Jerome, holding the gun, the student saving the teacher. With the room finally quiet, Lisa tells Shale everything she saw in that basement. Now Shale knows where the drugs are, and the endgame begins. That night, Glades and Roll learn Shale is inside the school, and they roll in with an army, stalling him with fake negotiations while Janice and his mercenaries creep in from the other side. Then one of Shale's men spots a sniper, opens fire, and the entire school erupts into open war. Classrooms are shredded, desks fly, hallways where children learn become killing grounds, a picture of everything this gang has done to the community. Shale's team pushes through it all, dismantling the operation piece by piece, but the price is savage. One teammate dies in the fighting. Another sacrifices himself in an explosion to clear the way. Then Roll slips out of hiding and shoots Holland in the back like a coward. With his dying strength, Holland puts a bullet in Glades, killing the drug lord and leaving only one enemy standing. Shale and Roll face each other in the wreckage. The principal grabs a gun and demands an answer. Why fight, if not for money like everyone else? Shale gives him the only answer a man like Roll will never understand. Some things can be taught. Then he drops him with one final, crushing blow. Exhausted and bleeding, Shale walks out of the ruined school and finds Joey, wounded but breathing. Out of everyone who walked into that war, only the two of them are left standing. The gang is broken, the school is free, and the substitute's final lesson is written in the rubble. And that's where the story ends. One man lost his country, his career, and nearly his life, and still chose to fight for a classroom full of kids the world had given up on. So here's my question for you. If you discovered the person running your school was the one poisoning it, would you have walked away, or gone undercover like Shale did? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And listen, if you made it this far, that means stories like this actually mean something to you, so don't just watch and disappear. Subscribe to FireFlix Recap right now, because every time someone skips that button, another incredible story goes untold. Hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs a good story tonight, and I'll see you in the next recap.